Hey there, I'm Pete Townsend, and this is Money Never Sleeps. We look inside the minds of entrepreneurs and at the crossover of startups, enterprise, finance, technology, and life as we know it. This week, I'm joined by Antoni Zolciak and Piotr Saczuk from the Aleph Zero Foundation. Aleph Zero is a privacy-enhancing Layer 1 blockchain renowned for prioritizing scalability, security, and speed. Antoni Zolciak is a co-founder of the Aleph Zero Foundation and Cardinal Cryptography, the core developer of the Aleph Zero blockchain. Antoni is a technology marketer with over 10 years of professional experience in public relations and content creation projects for global brands such as ING, Samsung, Sony, Olympus, and Nikon. But now, he's here to tell the story of incredibly smart people working on decentralized innovations. Piotr Saczuk is the head of investments at the Aleph Zero Foundation. After university, Piotr had a short spell in TradFi before going down the crypto rabbit hole with Finoa, Unmind DAO, Tsunami, and then finally to Cardinal Cryptography and Aleph Zero, first as ecosystem investment manager and then into his current role as head of investments. In this episode, Antoni and Piotr share their stories on what led them to Aleph Zero before we dig into what makes Aleph Zero unique as a Layer 1 blockchain. We then go further into Aleph Zero as an ecosystem with a thriving community and also take a look at how the team approached building this community over the past few years with the bears and the bulls at their heels. We also riff on what to look for in Web3 founders and take a look inside their relationship with the Techstars Web3 accelerator. All right here on Money Never Sleeps. Well, all right, guys, listen, great to have you on the show. Thanks so much for joining, Antoni and Piotr. Great to have you here from Aleph Zero. Really appreciate you jumping in to do this with me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Pleasure to be here.
Great to be here, Pete. Thanks for the invitation.
Wonderful. So why don't we just jump right in? Antoni, you came into the blockchain space with some deep experience in content design, writing, marketing, communications. Then you became one of the co-founders driving Aleph Zero forward in 2019. What do you think it was that pushed you in this direction to bring Aleph Zero to life?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very fair point because I wouldn't say it's a classic technical background, obviously. So I was involved with startups, various startups since my late teenage years, I would say. And this was always on level of bringing or translating the product mission and vision to understandable chunks of communication. And I'm biased, obviously, because I'm a sort of humanist by education and by interest. But I was also growing up surrounded by technology and sort of trying to understand how it translates into the betterment of our daily lives. And then, this journey had led me through some episode with journalism, also technology-based journalism, then through a short corporate career, and then through the scale-ups in Central and Eastern Europe. Then I was helping my friends to build a software house, at which point I also got involved in business and sort of more product design, I would say, or looking for proper go-to-markets and sort of turning the rough ideas or some piece of new technology into something that can be considered a business, which then came in very, very useful for whenever we got started with Aleph Zero. And as far as why I got into the space overall, what appealed to me the most is exactly this more humanist, I would say, nature of blockchain itself. So I perceive that as a technology that combines so many different things from so many different areas of life. You've got politics, you've got the deep tech, you've got finance, you've got sociology to an extent. So it was just extremely, extremely interesting to me because it sort of the ability to verify what's true and what's not opens so many doors to different applications that initially I was actually even more interested in sort of non-financial use cases than the financial ones.
That's interesting. And that really resonates with me because the way that we structure these Techstars Web3 classes, these cohorts, is that we want it to be a cross-section of society. It's not going to be all crypto native and DeFi. And just to show exactly what you just said, and I love you pointing out the humanist side of this, that if we think about the decentralized internet as the next stage of the internet, the next phase of the internet, that we've got plenty of everyday life on the internet as it is today. And that we're now in the process of moving it to the next stage. And so, exactly, it goes way beyond the financial applications of this. And that it does make a lot of sense based upon the way that you relayed that on what attracted you to this space. Piotr, with you in your head of investments role, right? Looking back at your track record here, it seems that you had investments in your bones going back to your university days. Then you jumped into TradFi a little bit into the funds industry, which is interesting because I've got some history there. I think we've talked about this before. And then blockchain kind of ate you up, right? Which is great. I think that's what happens to a lot of us. I saw names like Finoa, Unmind DAO, Tsunami, and then finally to Aleph Zero, and eventually then into your current role as head of investments. All that happened since April of 2021. And as we talk about, the space moves so fast, but what insights can you share on how you keep up with the pace of change, with how fast things are moving here in the blockchain space?
Great question. I think I just been pretty lucky with all of that, but of course you always have to support the luck. So I would say that there are a few things I got in mind when it comes to this question. First is to set up values you really believe in, and that later on, or at least in my case, it helped me a lot with all the decisions I needed to make during the process. As you said, this space is moving so fast, like probably any other, maybe beside AI, which also recently been a little bit involved. We here in Web3, we see this intersection of AI and crypto emerging. But yeah, when you got those values and you can, list that in a few different ways, then you have some lens through which you can look at your career, at your life, and at every decision. And that's also gonna mean you will need to sacrifice something if it's not actually aligned with your values. Let's see. One of my biggest values is expansion and exploration, which means I love to learn new things and push them forward, make some projects towards completion, make partnerships, make investments, etc. It drives me. So then, of course, as there is a lot of noise, a lot of stuff happening in the space, I need to sacrifice a lot of things. So prior to joining tech and Web3, I used to be a sportsman. So almost all of my life been around that. I needed to cut doing sports. Now I would say pretty minimum. So prior I'll be training every day. No, it's not like this, of course. But if this all still aligns with your values, I think you'll find great fit and feel great with your life. Then the next thing is very important for me was always to have great people around me and always asking questions. So even if I already done some small due diligence, if I should believe someone or not, because we see a lot of comments, a lot of thoughts in the market, not all of them are valuable. Some of them can hurt us. It's really a lot. So we really need to cut all of that noise and really think about who we should be listening to. And even after that, we should always question themselves and ourselves as well. And the more we think about some of the problems we encounter, the better we're going to be positioned to just overcome them. And the last thing probably would be just first, always being oriented on giving value to people. If you have great people around you, if they win, you're going to win as well. So just building great relationships, building great friends in a space, maybe not only on the business level, but also on the personal level. And that also helped me a lot within the career. And probably the last ingredient is just a lot of time spent on that. So for a few years, that's been only crypto for me. And really, I get no time for anything else. And without this, I wouldn't be able to proceed that fast. As you said, like from 2K21, it happened pretty a lot during my career. And the time spent also was a very important part of that.
Okay. So you went all in roughly. And the speed that things are moving here is, and just noting it with some of the companies in the current cohort, that just seeing how fast you can get a product to market when you've got a great community, in that you are engaging with them, say on Discord, you've got tons of feedback coming in once your product gets out there and gets launched, separating, like you said, between some of the noise and the real value add, on where your community are providing you with some feedback on, hey, I'd love to see your product look this way. I'd love to see this functionality. I'd love to be able to do this. I'd love to be able to do that. And being able to get that, having a strong community there is really, really helpful. And just that kind of leads me into the next question, really around Aleph Zero in general. First, as a layer one blockchain, but also as an ecosystem and as a community.
The idea behind Aleph Zero was like how the project was born. It was initially, it was just like a few people. It was all bootstrapped. The first stage was that Adam, who is one of my co-founders, I'm the only non-technical co-founder, then I have three highly technical business partners. And Adam had this idea for a new type of consensus protocol, basically something that was highly optimized for speed. You had the ADFT property, which meant that it's like a highest theoretical security guarantee. And it was very interesting as a future promise of on-chain performance, let's say. So then we started talking about it at some random party, and okay, how do we turn this into a business, into something that actually works, into something that can be productized? Where do we get the people from? Where do we get the money from? And this was really the starting point. So I would say typical, really garage style setup. And when you start building something that is so broad in scope and involves so many different people, ultimately you have no way of knowing what's going to be needed, so you kind of build as you go along, having this overall concept in mind. And the overall concept is that we want to solve two things that we still think are pretty much unsolved in the entire space, which is how do we make the on-chain performance better and cheaper and faster to the levels that are comparable to current Web 2 solutions, really. And how do we enable on-chain privacy, but not necessarily understood in this activist way of fundamental human right, which of course it is, but then also how does it translate into building better products? So if we talk about on-chain privacy, then the mere fact of having that privacy is going to be beneficial to a rather small target group. So how do you turn this into a USB? How does sort of having your transactions or computations private make the product or the use case better? So now we went out and we tried to verify that this is what the market actually needs or will want in the future. So partially it's like obviously based on some data, partially it's based on just your own gut feeling. And then you try and find developers and builders and projects and firms that would want to utilize this technology to build on it. So TLDR, I would say, is we went from building the core tech for the first 3 years, then launching the chain itself, and then going out and doing more BD work, looking for various development teams that also had some business and product know-how to be able to turn sort of their concepts into real applications that are built on top of Aleph Zero. Yeah, I think you also asked how we've done it through, a combination of, I guess, like just like any startup, really just super hard work, a lot of luck, and good timing.
Yeah, absolutely. And building the community is kind of like a cold start problem, right? You gotta get going somewhere. Do you remember back to when you did get started, that what were some of the first things that you did to kind of prime the pump of building that community?
I mean, I was very biased back then, and I still am. This was something that I definitely wanted to handle as fast as we could, which is how do we really tell the story from the content perspective, from the visual perspective, from the sort of the overall tone of voice perspective. Are we more academic? Are we more down to earth? Like, how do you even go about that in such a project that is a very deep tech project, at least initially. And yeah, like our community was built purely organically for the past 3.5, 4 years. It was just strictly organic build out. So all the typical crypto channels, from Telegram to Discord to Twitter, which is now X, which I refuse to acknowledge. And we just spent the time talking to every new community member for 4 years. That was the most important part of our initial distribution, I would say.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, is just talk to people in the community every day. And
correct.
Do you remember, like, you'd got to think, like you said, coming at this from a deep tech perspective, and that 3 of the 4 co-founders being technical co-founders, and that very much engaged deeply into the tech side of this, you coming at it from a perspective of having this content background, communications, marketing, strategy, turning technology ideas into products and into things that people can understand. Was it that your initial community members started with people that were a lot closer to the technology, that identified with what was being built from a tech perspective and said, yes, that's something that I can really align myself with, and I want to take part in that and build on that? And then you start bringing in people that are less tech native. Is that kind of the way it goes?
Yeah, I would say overall, yes. But then again, it all comes down to who are you really talking to. So, it's especially with layer 1s or layer 2s or any type of Web3 infra that doesn't have proof of personhood, you have absolutely no idea how many users you have. Like, there are ways to estimate it, but you don't have this concept of a Web2 user where you have ways of drilling down and establishing this, because you are not an app, you're an infrastructure. You have the protocol has holders, but then again, the wallet is not a user, and so on and so forth. So in our case, I would say that 100% the buy-in or opinions from people with technical background, cryptographers, mathematicians, and them being able to understand what we're building, seeing the value in it. We tried to collaborate with various projects on this early stage. This is absolutely crucial, especially if the project is a deep tech one, because this gives you this sort of external credibility, especially when you're coming to the space without prior commercial sort of experience in it. Yeah, this is definitely important, but at the same time, vast majority of the projects in this space do need this sort of speculation on the future potential. And the challenge is, how do you make this healthy? How do you not overdo it in a way that, you're just literally pumping a bubble that has no intrinsic value whatsoever? So it's a very, I would say, challenging mix to work with. And I'm quite proud of what we were able to build on that front, because all the sort of answers, all the messaging initially was 100% oriented at explaining the technology and the benefits to the end users of future applications that are going to be deployed on the network. Really, that's all we were doing in various different ways.
Okay. And I've been impressed with what I've seen from the community in terms of how active they are, especially on Twitter, as you said, that any of the kind of messages that we've shared out there together on Techstars and Aleph Zero have been immediately just eaten right up by the community in terms of sharing and reposting. And so are there some certain things that kind of went into what were the drivers of the development of what is now a very active community? What are some of the things that really worked for you guys?
Right. I mean, thank you for saying this. Like, I think we're really lucky to have the community that we have. I'm not sure if loyalty is the best word here, but sort of the closeness of the relationship is definitely there. We're now in the process of scaling it, which comes with a whole other set of challenges. And where does it come from? I would say it's again, like a combination of a few things. So even, our fundraising process, we wanted to make this as egalitarian as possible, but at the same time sustainable enough so that we actually deliver the stuff that we want to deliver. So we wanted to raise enough money, but not too much money. We wanted to raise on a valuation that was sufficient, but not like extremely high, so that you later end up with a very classic result that we're sometimes seeing. Like the fundraising journey was a I would say a really important part of the community build out. because it was a truly competitive valuation, I would say, even back then. And then we prioritized broad distribution and high initial circulating supply. So anyone who wanted to participate could. The only sort of restriction was that we imposed KYC on all the participants and sort
Okay.
of background checks and all this. So this wasn't a fair launched project, fair launch in the sense that you just release everything and the market takes care of it. But we wanted to make it as similar to it as possible while also securing the future for the next couple of years. And then sort of guiding the community through the development day in, day out. This is absolutely crucial, and just really just being there and talking with people in a normal way, in a not too salesy way, just as you would scale conversations with the people you know. So I think that's the key in Web3.
Yeah, absolutely. Just be yourself because everybody else is already taken. Good way to look at it. Piotr, from your perspective, that with the investment side, that you came in last year and you came in first with some ecosystem responsibilities and then moved into head of investments. How does that investment side that you're running add to the community and add to the overall ecosystem and the health of that and the development of that? How does that all work?
Yeah. So also to give the background of that, we quite few years already building the market, but the smart contracts went live in mainnet in April last year. And this is the moment when we established vehicle called EFP, Ecosystem Funding Program, and out of which we're doing 3 pipelines: grants, acceleration, and investments. And here, I think that it's, of course, case by case basis for each of the projects, especially infra projects, which could be similar somehow to us, however, with different USPs, how they want to approach this healthy growth of the ecosystem. And we approach it in a way that at the beginning, we try to subsidize it with giving more grants and attracting more great builders to build on top. And that, of course, with those builders, with new products coming to the ecosystem, the excitement of the community was going higher. And of course, also new users being onboarded to the ecosystem, seeing that there are some novel use cases being built on top. However, giving out grants, it's a not way which is sustainable in very, very long term. If we are telling about, very big grants and etc. So they are still important part of what we're doing. We still, I would say, have very fast pace of evaluating projects and giving out grants, but we are looking for a moment when we can switch from more this subsidizing approach into, I call it ROI focus approach, which means that we still provide a lot of value, but we rather try to invest in projects which are building on top of Aleph. Because like first wave of projects which came, they needed to accommodate all of the basic needs of a user in crypto, right? So that means that we need to have a DEX, money market, liquid staking, etc. To unlock all of the DeFi options. We need to have gaming vertical. So each type of user got something to do and is excited about the ecosystem, and that's still something interesting for him or her. So that was very hard to find this moment and also be sure and bet that, hey, right now we are ready to actually change the approach, and it's not going to slow down the ecosystem. It's not going to stop the wave of founders coming and deploying on top of us. But I think we've done this pretty well. And this year we've made already a few investments. We got a few in the pipeline as well. And I would say that reached the equilibrium. Then very crucial part of what we're doing, thanks to founders are happy. And if founders are happy, community also should be right, because they will just have mass of products to use. Very unique and nice product. So I said that we're doing grants and investments. This, I think, more or less pretty straightforward how that can work. But I said that we're also doing acceleration. And here I don't mean the same type of acceleration as Techstars is doing. It's not cohort based. It's whenever we onboard new project, it can be through grant or through the investment. We still do this thing we call acceleration, which would be called portfolio work. So we try to help on a few different verticals. Antoni is obsessed with UX, and I think that he made everybody in the team really passionate about UX. And this is also something we put a lot of effort and a lot of focus during this work with portfolio companies, with ecosystem projects. So we almost always hire UX researchers. We have a big design team in-house and got few design studios we work with externally. All of them help even on the earliest phases of the projects. So the user journey as well as design is great. So later on, interaction with those protocols is seamless for users. So we help a lot on that vertical. We help a lot with the security. So we pay for audits at the moment. We mostly working with Kudelski Security, which is a really great firm. And as well, we onboarded Hats Finance some time ago for the audits of how we can approach the security in Web3. Besides that, when it comes to incorporation on any compliance stuff, we also come with help. And besides that, there is also always dedicated tech person, or few of them, who are helping and always available to answer some questions on the code about the infrastructure. And this is the same on the business side. And for the best projects, we also help with the fundraising. And we managed to close a few rounds last year in very bad market environment. So I would say that the results here of the whole ecosystem efforts we're doing, this went and is going pretty great, and I'm proud of it. So yeah, I think that this is something which is a distinguisher for us, that we really work a lot with the founders. There's, of course, also downside because we actually help in building those companies, and then we need to somehow balance that with still developing the Aleph Zero, right? So it's just a lot of work and a lot of time which needs to be committed and resources to proceed this way. And as a last thing, which I think is pretty unique for us, is that our grant committee consists core people and the most senior people. And it's not really a case with many of other projects. And thanks to this, from the day one, if we engage with them, they get access to the brightest minds, let's say, and the best help we can ever provide for them. And yeah,
Okay.
So TLDR, we just work a lot with founders, and we believe that when founders gonna be happy, community always are gonna be happy as well.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And what you're talking about in terms of, you said Antoni loves UX and he's huge on UX. And how can you actually influence those that build on your protocol to actually build fantastic UX? Well, you don't just leave it to them. You actually provide them with the resource to do it. And it's an interesting kind of juxtaposition from, say, if you take a big VC like A16Z, where they've got 100, 150 people just dedicated to increasing the odds of founder success. And that they've got tech people, they've got UX people, they've got HR, hiring help, they've got go-to-market strategists, all those types of things that are just because they're trying to increase the ROI. You guys have this kind of dual, sometimes competing, sometimes not competing priorities. Sometimes they're very much aligned of you want more building on Aleph Zero, growth of the ecosystem, more developers, more apps being built on it, but also then obviously where you do deliver ROI. That there's a lot of depth to navigating those waters between those two things, the ecosystem growth and the ROI. Yeah?
Yeah, this is, I would say, really interesting program to crack. I don't think so. Like anybody in the space got some clear playbook how to do it. But yeah, then this kind of investing, of course, I call it ecosystem investing, is different than just investing, which is purely based on ROI in terms how much money I'm gonna have in return for my investment. Because here we also, as an ecosystem, as a layer one foundation, we need to look through some different lenses. If this project's gonna bring us some traffic, is this project gonna be here for the 5 and 10 years? Because probably you can generate some return on a very high project in some let's say 2 or 3 years, but we want to have a set of products which gonna be staying for really long term with us. So we need to sacrifice putting money in some opportunistic teams, for example, on which probably you could make some money as an investment, instead onboarding really dedicated founders and make the whole process much longer, of course, as well. So yeah, we always need to think how many wallets, new users going to come to the ecosystem thanks to this investment. So it's very hard to evaluate, especially that we don't really have great ways to measure that. As Antoni said earlier, one wallet, it's not equal to one user. One user can have infinite wallets, let's say, right? But it's really hard to measure that. And there's also a lot of fake traffic in the space. So we need to filter this out as well. And the best way still around that is just to invest in founders, especially. Invest in people much more than investing in project itself. Because even if they will need to pivot, even if something will not be going the way they wanted at the beginning, they still should be fine. Or at least they're going to be doing their best, right? So that's why also we are mostly focused on, I would say, pre-seed stage, very early stage. So we also give grants or investments when there's only idea sometimes, right? And try to help and bring founders, further with their journey.
Interesting. And kind of speaking to the alignment between our organizations in terms of looking for great founders first, because you find a great founder who will go through brick walls to get their business, to get their project to scale. And generally, if they're a really good person, they're going to be able to bring others with them on the journey as well. And not just those from their own project, but those that are part of the overall ecosystem out there in Web3 that we're all trying to build here. And that they'll bring others to the party as well. And that's a nice little kind of flywheel effect that starts to happen here of getting great projects on board, building solid apps, building scalable projects that can then attract additional users. What are some of the things in terms of, qualities in founders that you look for? I mentioned go through brick walls, but specifically in the context of Aleph Zero, are there things that when you meet a founder that really jumps out at you? What are some of the things you can point to that say, okay, this may be someone that would be right for building on Aleph Zero?
I have two things strongly, and that's like the overall mental flexibility, I would say, and thinking outside of the box. Sounds cliche, but I found it to be very true. And then being proactive in the sense that, if they don't reply to your email, call them. If they don't call, then, well, don't be a creep, but figure out some other way to get the info you want, to get the result you want. And so these are the two very important things. And then the overall empathy, and that's towards the team, towards the clients, towards investors as well, towards everyone sort of within your orbit.
I would say that, at least from my perspective, with most founders we onboarded to ecosystem, beside business relation, we also got personal relation. Of course, this is being built through the way, but from the beginning, we try to meet in person as well and just get to know about them, not only their projects. And I think that we get best fit with people best fit in business with people. We also get great fit just as a people, and that they share pretty similar values, are as well hardworking. And beside that, I would just say that they are not being afraid of making mistakes and being wrong, and showing deep understand of a space, always being open for changing their mind if they will see that they were wrong. So this is something very important for me.
Gotcha. And I know that you guys have been doing a lot of traveling lately. Where's going to be the best place for people to meet you in person? Where do you think the next place will be that you'll be hanging out, that developers and or founders might be able to see you guys?
Yeah, I think that everybody who wants to meet us, please just shoot a DM, because we kind of everywhere. The next places for us are Berlin, for the Berlin Blockchain Week. It's a great hub for developers. I love Berlin. Then we are and in New York with you, Pete, for the Techstars Demo Day.
Wonderful.
So yeah, also one of the biggest hubs out there. And I think EFCC also, this year Brussels, is very important event for us as well.
Yeah. The three good ones right there, and really looking forward to New York Tech Week coming up. A16Z are very much involved in this as well. But like you said, we've got our demo day on Thursday, June 6th near Union Square for Techstars Web3. Anything that you guys would say to the next group of founders that might be considering the Techstars Web3 Accelerator?
Yeah, I think that you can find few really great things really hard to get somewhere else. So first, the experience and the mentor network. So the experience of the inside, like in-house team of Techstars, but as well, really, really broad mentor setup. And you'll be able to choose from any market segment, any jurisdiction. And this is something really valuable, and it cuts a lot of time when it comes to finding the right person to ask the right questions. So yeah, this is really extremely big value. And then when it comes to Web3, it's outside in technology, right? But in a lot of cases, I think overall in Web3, we don't really think about the business model that much and how the product gonna exist in, let's say, outside Web2 real world, right? And how end user is gonna interact with it. And here with the business model and go-to-market strategy, I think Techstars is one of the, if not the best partner you can probably have at the early stage.
Yeah, I would say that being obsessed about the user first and foremost is the way to go. And in reality, most of the firms, startups, products that they do one or two things, right? So they solve problems for their users, or they're trying to enrich the lives of their users somehow. And from what we've heard just by talking with Techstars founders from this cohort, you folks are doing an amazing job in relaying that information in a very comprehensive, organized way, and also providing the necessary support from the business perspective. So, okay, you have this idea, and then how do you make it as practical as possible? There is this saying that, first time founder focuses on the product only, and the second time founder is way more into distribution, right? So I think that ultimately programs like this can save a lot of time.
Yeah, that's the idea. Like, I've seen founders that are just eating everything up from a mentorship perspective, from a program perspective, doing everything we ask, and it's seeing how fast they move is amazing. And this is my third time through it now. And thank you publicly to Hugh McGurr, who's my partner in crime with all this, who just has been so dedicated to what he calls the grind of build, sell, raise, build, sell, raise, build, sell, raise over and over and over again. So it's great to have your guys' perspectives on this. I like to end every podcast with one final question. What is one thing that people would not expect to know about you? And we could start with Antoni.
I play cello.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's absolutely not related to crypto at all. I'm just going to
Well, two of the letters are the same. So,
yeah, sure. And okay, and it's an L2 on it.
Two L's.
Just with one L.
It's good. That's good. How long have you been playing cello?
Since I was 6.
Wow. And do you play every day? Do you play once a week? How often?
Right now, not so often, but it's amazing to kind of just, de-stress every once in a while.
Oh, totally. Oh, that's fantastic. No, I want to hear more about this when we're in New York together. So looking forward to that. Piotr, what about you?
Yes, so I used to train martial arts for quite some time, and I even had a fight in a cage. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Did you win?
No, unfortunately.
But you're still alive. I think that's what matters once you're in a cage fight, right?
Yeah. I think until they break up your soul, you're okay.
Pete, right back at you. What's the one thing that people don't know about you?
The one thing that people don't know about me, Jesus, I've bared my soul in this podcast over 260 episodes now. Let me see. I've talked about so much already. There is a picture of me literally flying through the air when I was 17 years old and I was in high school. It was on a kind of the senior summer party that we had at a swimming pool. And there was a high dive, and there was this dive called the watermelon. And if you've ever jumped in the water, obviously, I'm assuming you've jumped in the water and you've done a cannonball, perhaps. So a watermelon is an upside down cannonball. So you do a big bounce off the board, and then you kind of spread your arms out and almost fly like you're Superman. And then just before you hit the water, you tuck into an upside down cannonball. And the splash is magnificent. And that is me doing the watermelon. So I'm going to have to dig that picture out of me. And it literally does look like I'm flying. And thanks to my friend, Erin Hetzel from high school, who we called Pretzel, that she took the picture. So we're going to have to dig that out.
I am very much looking forward to the tweet.
All right, cool. I will try to dig it out, guys. But listen, thank you so much for joining. It's been awesome to have you both with me on the show, and very much looking forward to seeing you both in New York.
Awesome. Yeah, really looking forward for that. Thank you for hosting us, having us here, Pete.
Yeah. Thanks for everything.
That does it for this week, folks. Thanks to Antoni Zolciak and Piotr Saczuk from the Aleph Zero Foundation for opening up their minds to help us figure out why they do what they do. For show notes and resources and how to get in touch with Antoni and Piotr, check out our website, moneyneversleeps.ie. If you like what you heard, please leave us a rating and or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, as it helps others to find the show. Also, thanks to Conan Brophy from Create Sound for mixing and editing this episode. Conan is an excellent media man to get in touch with when you're thinking about launching your own podcast. As for me, I'm an early stage startup investor focused on where fintech meets crypto and crypto meets Web3. And I lead the Techstars Web3 accelerator. There are plenty of links in the show notes on moneyneversleeps.ie and how to get in touch, so don't hesitate to reach out. Finally, till next time, thanks for listening. See ya!